you find something common amongst artists. They call it a split sheet. A split sheet is basically how royalties are going to be shared. It's enforceable as a contract.
How important is it for producers and musicians to thoroughly read the contract before they sign?
More than important. Like, we don't like reading. That's a fact. If you're not going to go through the contract yourself, rely on your lawyer. Matter of fact, even if you went through it, some of the terms will go over your head.
I think it's a matter of life and death. No artist or producer comes out and says, I'm doing one track and I'm going into retirement. You're looking at continuity. You're looking at establishing a brand for yourself and for your music. So whatever you sign is life or death. Whenever somebody gives you something, it doesn't hurt to go to a lawyer. It's not always about the money.
Learn. Knowledge is endless. It's business. You love it. You're doing it for fun. You're passionate about it, but it can pay your bills.
Always have a lawyer. After getting your lawyer, pay your lawyer.
Hey. After getting your lawyer, pay your lawyer. Hi guys, the name is Kojo Jr. and this is Plays Right Podcast, a music right podcast where we talk about everything music, everything that a musician and a music producer should know and anybody in the creative space should pay attention to. I'm here with two interesting people. Like when I say interesting, like these people are very interesting. I would actually love for them to say something about themselves, like something brief. If they don't say something about them, I'll tell you. So on my right we have...
My name is Kwabna from Paul Mensa. I'm a private legal practitioner and I like to play with entertainers.
In short, no, a lawyer. In short, he's a lawyer. Yes. And on my left,
coincidentally, I'm also Kwabna. Government's name Kwabna Ofe Kwad in Nkrumah, but everybody knows me as Kobe Spikey in Nkrumah.
When I said something brief, I wanted you to spice it up. Something brief. You will say me, I'll say it.
So I'm a techie. I'm a car guy. I'm a music producer at night, and yeah.
Calf.
What he's not adding is that
Calf.
He's the person who took Calf to court and won.
Yeah, that guy.
Based on the conversation we're about to have.
Yeah, I sued Calf for stealing my music.
I don't think you guys have any idea what's going on right now. He sued CAF, Confederation of African Football, right? He sued them and won how much?
$250,000.
I don't. $250,000. Dollars. It's an old buyer saying $250,000. $250,000 from CAF. I know your exes are calling you right now.
Are they? No. They're not.
Like people you've not heard from in years.
Yeah, those ones are calling. And people that I don't even know are calling.
So we are friends now, right?
But we've always been friends.
Hey. So on my right, I have a lawyer, and on my left, I have Spikey. We are rich. We are so rich.
The lawyer will tell you that when you win a case, it's not that easy.
That's
what happens in the courts. It's totally different from what happens in real life. So up to now, I'm still chasing my money.
Wait, Unyae.
Like you would hear me before you see me. If like the money enter my hand, you hear me before you see me. You know what they say?
I love that.
When I get rich, I won't show off, but there'll be signs.
I know you guys are from different backgrounds. So what's your contribution to the music industry?
I think Paki should go first.
What? The music industry in Ghana specifically, I don't think I've really had an impact or a contribution that's noticeable.
Spike Rana, I think you have made enough impact
now. Hey. Yeah, because I've probably set a precedent for other musicians. Because I get calls from other musicians now. Charlie, somebody's used my songs. Even just last week, even this morning, I had a call from someone whose music had been used by a certain body, and they were trying to settle, and they were doing something. So he hit me up like, bro, how do I proceed with this? But prior to that, it was just me, I'm very plugged into the entertainment or the music industry because I love music. I love producing, not for anything. Like there's never been really for the money, but just for the passion. And so Shaker, when it was Mike Records, I used to hang around with them. Joey B. I've basically hung out with a lot of musicians until I went corporate. Yeah. So that's me in a nutshell.
Okay.
I think in similar fashion, my contribution, or I wouldn't call it a contribution because I'm still trying to contribute, is to make the space clearer for creatives and for artistic people. And from my legal background, what I can help them with, maybe their contract preparation or interpreting or getting proper deals to ensure that they don't get the short end of the stick. So that's what I would call my contribution. I've also been very big fan of music from childhood. What I lacked in talent, I've put into helping those with the talent to make it a better place. And thankfully, I've been able to work with a few of the arts and around, a few upcoming ones, a few established ones, and you're just hoping to be able to broaden your scope in that area.
Now, I would actually love for you to name some of the artists.
I mean, client confidentiality, so I can't go out on a limb and say I've worked with X, Y,
lawyers.
But yeah,
lawyers.
I have.
But somebody can say it for him, right?
Well, once it's not coming from me, somebody can say it for me.
Okay. Who are your lawyers?
So Anku at law, specifically Madam Sarah Noko Anku.
Okay.
Yeah, she's an IP lawyer. Pretty much what Kovna also does.
Yeah.
I heard you guys don't do art. Lawyers don't do art. Like, you can't advertise yourself that you're a lawyer.
Yeah, we can't. We have a code of ethics that allows us to do certain things and doesn't allow us. So even with how we announce ourselves, we are allowed a little corner signboard to show that there's a law firm here, but we don't do ads on social media. We don't tout ourselves as the best in something or being great at something. So yeah, it's a very regulated society.
So how about if you buy a Rolls Royce and you customize the number plate, lawyer one?
Well, there are actually a few lawyers who have like customized number plates around. So it's that is not. I mean, that's more of the person, not the profession.
It's an ad though.
Yeah, I mean, it is an ad, but yeah, with everything there are some loopholes. So I think also one of the loopholes. I had a lecturer whose number plate was always Hans One. So you know who he is, you know who's coming.
Okay, so to the producer, what inspired you to produce music?
Other musicians, other producers, Hammer, Timbaland, Pharrell, The Runners, Justice League. Like, hearing people make sounds, tell stories just inspired me. And yeah, I don't play any instruments. So, and I just wanted to also be able to make music, make people feel the way Hammer and Co's music made me feel. And so I had to learn how to make beats. And thanks to Fruity Loops, big shout outs to those guys, because they put us all on. And I learned a few tricks with the software. And yeah, I've never been able to stop producing ever since. Every single day I make at least a beat or two. So I get back from home, before I get to sleep, sit behind my computer, make a beat. You know, feel some emotion, translate it into music. What some people would do with art, what some people would do with poetry, what some people would do in speaking, I would do with my music. So yeah, that's what inspired me basically to start producing.
Wow. How has the journey been in the industry so far?
In the Ghanaian industry.
Very
I have to be specific because I'm specific because Ghana, the potholes plenty. Even in the music industry, you know, like I didn't even know where to start, and I never ever considered it as a career to pursue because, Charlie, I've seen my friends in the music industry do great. I've seen older musicians do great, but then the moolah is not coming. You know, the money is still somewhat some way. And so for me, it was like, I have to have, and I'm really an overthinker when it comes to whatever I'm doing. So I have to have a plan, and this must bring results. And I wasn't seeing any clear-cut path for me to make that money. So I'm like, you know what? Let's do it as a hobby till we find a way to really make money out of this stuff. If people want to buy the beats, yeah, I'll quote a price for them. If they can pay, I give it to them. If they can't pay, I won't sell it to them. And so it started like that. I got a few people reach out. Hey, I heard this beat. I'd like to use it. I'd quote an amount for them and they go like, Charlie, why? The beats be God play 'em. You know, but then I'm looking online and hearing how much people are selling beats for, licensing beats for, and you want to give me 500 CDs for a beat that I pretty much spent blood, sweat, and tears to create, because I'm very thorough, right? I have to make sure that everything sounds very, you know, true to the instrument. I'm not going to play trumpets like for you to know it's coming from a keyboard. And so if I know I've put in that amount of effort to make the thing believable, can you offer me 500 Ghana cedis? I won't do it. So yeah, initially a lot of people thought I was some way B, because Charlie, other people are doing it. But I didn't think other people felt like their beats were their products of like a piece of them. You know, maybe it's just something, it's coming off a conveyor belt. But for me, it was coming from a very, very deep place. So I'm not going to let you waste it. So if I think that you're talented and I love what you do, I'll give it to you. Now and there, Charlie, do what you want with it. But if I don't mean I'm not feeling your vibe, then you two want to give me 500 Ghana cedis. But yeah.
Nah, this is the third time you're mentioning 500 Ghana cedis.
Somebody actually offered me, and it vexed me.
It's personal.
Who of it?
I don't even remember the guy's artist name, but I know him.
Okay, come now.
Yeah.
What are some of the common legal issues the artists and producers face?
The first one is the money. You've invested in your art, you've put it out, you're seeing the streaming numbers, you're seeing it being played all over the radio and all, but you're not seeing the revenue from it. It's either whatever you are signing, you didn't check how you'll be paid, when you'll be paid, in which manner you'll be paid, if you'll be paid at all. So that's the very first one. And the next one is ownership of the artwork itself. As he said, for every song, there are 3-4 people who contribute to make the song. There's the songwriter, there's the artist himself, there's the producer, the mixer. All of those people have percentages, and I'm using this loosely, in whatever finished work comes out. So the question of who owns what. When you put your song out there, it's not just the streams. The revenue that comes are twofold. There's the mechanical royalties from the streaming that you get, and then for the people who are not the main acts itself, the songwriter, the composer or the producer, there's publishing royalties for him because he created the composition. So he's entitled to make some money from it. So what percentage of the composition does he own? What percentage does the songwriter own? What percentage does the artist himself own? Or if the artist is signed to a label, what percentage does the label own? And at the end of the day, who owns the actual song? That is the finished product. So those are the two main problems artists or creative people face. There's also it's collateral to the second one of ownership, but the kind of licenses you have granted to people to use your work for. I mean, let's give a common example. You've produced your song, you've given it to a distributor, or maybe as part of your label, you've given them the license to sync it in a movie or in a television show or something of the sort, and you get up one day and your song is being used in porn. It's like, I mean, there's some general outrage. Maybe from a money point of view, it's not bad, but then there's a general outrage that your song is, what is your song doing in the porn? And like, I didn't consent to it, but if you had read the fine print of your contract, you realize that you've given the person the license to do that, to pitch your song to somebody like that, and it will feature. So those are the major problems artists will face.
So we, the consumers, we just listen to the music for listening's sake. Me, for example, I didn't know a lot goes into music production, music distribution, and the listening. Me, I just listen to music. I didn't know. It's good that I'm on this podcast because I get to learn new things every day.
Yeah.
So from what you just said, a lot goes into music production.
Yeah, one song is not just the artist entering the studio to sing or to belt out lyrics. Somebody wrote the song. If the artist is good enough and also wrote the song, good for him. But somebody wrote the song. Somebody composed the melody. Somebody sat and arranged it. Somebody mixed it before you get your final master. So it has gone from these stages. Probably, for all you know, the artist was probably the last person in the production chain. You know, all of this was done and just gave it to him. You know what? Sing. And the person sang it beautifully, and it's such a nice song. But there's all of these people in the background who are doing these things with the expectation that there is some payment that is due them. You can have a one-off. Like he said, I produce the beats, I charge you for the beats, I wash my hands of it. If you want me to also act as your sound engineer, you also pay me for that, and then I'm done. But you could have a situation where I don't have the money to pay you, but I want your beats. Let's go make an arrangement. When I make mechanical royalties, let's say 10% of every royalty I make will go to you. That's your payment for producing the beat. That is aside your publishing for being the one who composed the beats in itself. Those are the things that all the players in have at the back of their mind. So you find something common amongst artists. They call it a split sheet. So a split sheet is basically how royalties are going to be shared. It's enforceable as a contract in some occasions. So you've written the artist 20%, label 10%. That number is approximating. Producer 50, songwriter 5. That's how you share it at the end of the day. So when your royalty check comes, whether it's quarterly or it's monthly, you have to make these distributions to these people for the work they've done for you.
Okay. Like that. Spiky. How aware were you when you started in this music industry about the legal aspects of it? Like contracts, royalties?
I was very oblivious, like very, very, very. Because, as a young kid, I started producing in high school. So I was in SHS, now it's SHS, but then it was SS. I was SS2. And my friend who used to go to Hammer Studio brought FL Studio. And I started playing with it in a computer lab in school. So then I was making beats for my friends to rap demo, those things, school demos and those things. Like if I had known all my friends' demos, I'll collect money before they go and perform it in those girls' schools. But I didn't know, right? And today, if any of those songs become a hit, I probably wouldn't even remember that I made that beat, or I wouldn't even have a share of it because there's no contract binding me. But thanks to the lawyer now, I know that it's my rights, whether or not, I signed a contract or whatever, I still have a share of it. So I didn't know any of these things. But as time went on, I learned from people that I met, and I learned from people who knew better. Someone like Beat Menace. If I get a conversation with Beat Menace, like 1 hour, 2 hours, I don't let that guy go without downloading at least 4 terabytes.
I know Beat Menace. I
download like 4 terabytes before I let the guy go. And so I learned a lot from him, and he steered me towards, in the right direction. And then I learned also from other producers and other artists' mistakes. So when I see something online, there's a story about copyright, or there's a story about some music thing, I'll read it, try and understand it. If I don't understand anything, ask questions. So I think the first half of my production journey, I knew nothing. Just dropping my stuff out there, putting it on Facebook. I saw my music in ads on TV as far back as 15 years ago. Somebody would do a trailer cut with my music, because I used to make epic soundtracks. So, people were doing those movies cuts and stuff, and they'll use it. People would do documentaries and they'll use it. And I was happy, hey, that's my sound. Not realizing that that's money that's going. But then again, these people, some of them I realized were my friends who just liked my stuff, and so they borrowed it and they used it for their work. So
they're paying you in exposure.
They're paying me in exposure, which I never ever cashed out. So, but now, before anyone touches my stuff, obviously because of the calf stuff, they would hit me up. I beg, can I use this stuff? And I say, yeah, sure. But then I've also got a contract that I'll give them to sign. And that I learned from one of my first gigs with this non-profit. That wanted my music for a documentary. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool. And they're like, okay, before we use it, here's a contract we want you to sign. And the thing was chow, like, a release form basically. And I had to sign based on where they were going to use it, all the jurisdictions they were going to use it, where it was going to appear. Initially, I was going to just sign, and I was like, maybe I should let the lawyer look at this to be sure. So I sent it to a friend who was a lawyer who read through it and then started asking me questions. Are they allowed to use it in Africa, in the US? I'm like, okay, we didn't have the conversation about where they want to use it. we also didn't have the conversation about the duration. Mind you, there was a duration and I didn't even care, but I should care because if I was giving him permission to use it, it means they could use it in perpetuity. And so he clarified, made certain changes to it, sent it back to me, I sent it to them, and then they acknowledged the changes, and then I signed. And he was like, if we hadn't set a duration, they would have been able to use it forever. And then maybe the next 2 years, somebody wants to use that sound and they're willing to pay you $500,000, but you've licensed it to these guys and they still have the license to use it. And I'll be able to get. So I learned a lot from those people. So that's why I said, when you asked me about my journey, I do locally or internationally, because internationally, at least they understand these things. And so they steer you, even though some of them have some small prints, like if you're not smart, you'd miss, but at least you get to know how things work.
I like that. What you said just steered me towards this question. How important is it for producers and musicians to thoroughly read contract before they sign it?
More than important. Like, we don't like reading. That's a fact. And so that's why you should have somebody like Kwabena in your corner. So if you won't read it, send it to him. His job is to read it. And he's looking out for you. So your lawyer is looking out for you. Like now, I got a contract. I sent it to my lawyer. My lawyer would go through it and then ask me, are you sure about the amount? Let's check and see if that's a standard amount that people usually pay. And so we did some research and realized, okay, these people are actually paying more, but I won't tell them. So we essentially ask for more and see maybe they can. And I wouldn't have noticed this if it wasn't for my lawyer. So if you're not going to go through the contract yourself, rely on your lawyer. Matter of fact, even if you went through it, some of the terms will go over your head. Like when I was in court, when he said, I put it to you.
What are they putting to me?
Bro, the lawyer said, I put it to you and said some plenty things. And I nodded and said, okay. And then the judge said, you're supposed to answer. I said, but it's not a question. It's a statement. He said, no. In the court, that's the question.
Yeah, it's an open-ended question.
And I didn't understand that. So if I didn't have a lawyer, or if things didn't go the way they went, I would have probably said something and then ruined my case. Right? But thankfully, if you have a lawyer who understands the case, I mean, obviously a lawyer would understand the terms and all those things. They'll be able to get you to sign good deals. I know people sign deals that are terrible for them, like terrible, because they look at the money pay. They don't look at the rest of the fine print.
Okay, so Kwabena, how important?
I think it's a matter of life and death.
Indeed.
I mean, for your career, you're looking at no artist or producer comes out and says, I'm doing one track and I'm going into retirement. You're looking at continuity. You're looking at establishing a brand for yourself and for your music. So whatever you sign is life or death. Unfortunately, we have people signed onto contracts that make slave trade look nice. You're signed onto a label for 20 years.
Hey.
Do you know 20 years in the music industry? You are paid royalties after recouping. The royalties is even net after tax deductions, after distribution payments, after so many other payments. You are literally making nothing from the huge amount of money you may have made for the label. We have people who've licensed their music to people for, like you said, perpetuity, but they didn't think about it at the time of signing the license agreements because they looked at the money and they looked at the exchange rates and they were like, oh, this one is good money and we are good to go. People have terms in their contracts where they've literally sold masters they even made before they joined the label just because they didn't read the fine print. And it happens. I can't mention his name, but there's this guy with a very big hit song. The one hit, it got him signed onto a label. But what he didn't realize is that when he signed the agreement, he also signed over his previous masters onto the label. And so now you're in a situation where you want to monetize the master or the song that made you popular, and you realize you don't even own it anymore. So those are the things you want to avoid whenever you see it. Whenever somebody gives you something, it doesn't hurt to go to a lawyer. It's not always about the money. You can structure it. Okay, do this for me. When the money comes, I'll pay you this amount. So you have an agreement that when the money does come, you're paying him this amount. You need it immediately. you may not always have the money. Even when it comes to court, we have structured agreements we have with artists. Okay, when we recover X amount, you pay me X amount. Till there's recovery, just pay for your filing, the filing of the rates and then the various court processes. When we recover, then we go into how much we will do the distribution. It's a solution to your problem, and you've not expended so much money. Rather than enter into it 4 years down the line, you're approached by Sony and you realize you don't own anything. And then the contract you are in, you can't escape it. Termination has such stringent terms. You can only terminate with 6 months notice. After the 6 months notice, you have to go into accounts of the company, or you are being given only the option to buy out yourself, and then the quotation is in millions. When you and the label know they didn't even invest half of that into your crafts during your period of time over there, or there's no clear ownership terms, so you think you own your masters, the label thinks they own their masters, and now both of you are actively trying to sell your masters to the same person. It happens in the industry because there are people who buy masters for other uses outside. And there are people who buy licenses for masters. So these are things you will need to know about before you sign anything. That's why I started by saying it's literally life and death. And people's careers have gone down the drain because they did not understand whatever they're signing on. So it's very, very important. Even if you won't give it to a lawyer because you are afraid the lawyer will know what you're up to, give it to somebody in the industry. There's Kofi the Beat Menace, there's Spikey, there's Kofi. There's so many people who have that experience and the exposure. I would always say come to a lawyer, but for whatever reason you have your reservations on that, let there be a second opinion before you sign on to anything.
You know, when you said life and death, it drew my attention to something that I think people need to realize how important these things are. I don't know if you guys have heard the case, the Disney Plus, Disney death, where a man and his wife went to Disney World and she had an allergic reaction and she died. And he couldn't sue because he signed up for a free trial on Disney Plus. And in that terms and conditions that we always click next, accept, it said, if anything happens to you under any Disney thing, you can't sue Disney.
You can't sue.
Yeah, and you have accepted it. So imagine that you went to fill a form and he said, accept. And then something happened to you and you went, I'm going to sue this transport company. And say, oh, when you took that free ride, you actually accepted that if anything happens to you, you can't sue us. So if you see, it is long. The terms and conditions are long.
Wow.
But there's always a caveat in there that if you're not careful, could come back and bite you.
The devil always is in the details.
The details.
So just to avoid that unfortunate situation, look for a lawyer. There are few of us. There's always the complaint that there are not enough lawyers in the IP or the entertainment space, but there are a few. You just don't, I don't want to use the word patronize, but yeah, you're not coming to us. You're not coming to the people.
I think you can use patronize.
Yeah, well, you're not patronizing our services. We sit there and we wait for you. We can't instigate litigation. We can't tell you to go and sue somebody. You have to come. We have to have an open and honest discussion. Sometimes when you look at what you have signed, we have to tell you as it is. This is what you're going to go through to extricate yourself from this situation. Are you ready to do it? If you're not, going on a media tour bastardizing your former labor manager is not going to help you. Or your former artist manager. It's not going to do much. In the court of public opinion, you may win, but when you actually have to put your case forward, you realize that some of your acts have actually hindered your case. So please, we can't stress it enough, but do have a second opinion, a legal opinion on whenever you're signing anything.
Okay, so what are some of the pitfalls in contracts?
I will always look at, for me, I always look at four things. If it's for a producer, it's the consideration or the money he's being paid. If it's either a one-off payment in cash or it's a royalty payment, how is the royalty payment being structured? Is it dependent on the artist distributor? Is the artist making payment directly? Is it a label that is making payment directly? What is the tenure of this royalty payments? Is it in perpetuity? Is it for maybe the first 5 years of streaming? Should there be any syncing or any license? Are you a party to it? Then your publishing. The composer. What's your percentage of ownership in the composition? Let's say you made the whole of the beat, everything in the beat. But yeah, the songwriter also has to be factored in. The artist also has to be factored in. What percentage of publishing are you as the producer getting? And you, the producer, do you even have a publisher? Are you signed on to either Sony, Share, 1RPM, whoever? Do you have a publisher who is actively going around collecting these royalties for you? Do you need a publisher? Yes, you need a publisher, but which kind? Which one is best tailored to what your present needs are? The next is dispute resolution. When there's a dispute, what are the timelines for resolving it? Is it by amicable settlements first and then court? Or even if it's court, which country are you suing in? Which country have you subjected your contract to its laws? Because you may sign a contract in Ghana, but in the contract, it's supposed to be governed by the laws of America. So you can't sue in Ghana. You've given the courts in America exclusive jurisdiction to hear your matter. It means you have to get a lawyer in America who will liaise with your lawyer in Ghana, who will provide him with the details, who is now going to sue on your behalf in whichever federal court in America. Is it arbitration? Arbitration where? How many arbitrators? Which country? Which language is the arbitration? Where is the seat of the arbitration? Because if the arbitration is in the UK, you are literally going to the UK. If it's before the LCI or any arbitration house, you literally have to go to that arbitration house. We're looking at termination. What notice period do I have to give before I can terminate? What are the conditions for termination? Some have termination clauses where you can only terminate after the company or the label has made a certain amount of recouping plus interest for having invested in your craft in the first place. So what are the terms? What is the notice period? What's the notice period? What are the terms? And if you cannot terminate amicably, what are the incidents or what should happen when there's a default which could lead to termination? Then you're looking at the parties themselves. Everybody enters into a contract thinking that the contract is between the person they are signing with. But maybe the person is a subsidiary of a subsidiary of a subsidiary, and then the actual contract is with the main party. So maybe you have with Sony Publishing Africa, but the contract itself is with Sony itself. You have to know who the other party is, and whether the person has the capacity to even enter into the contract with you in the first place. So those are the things that I will look out first before we look at the money. As for the money, it's not going anywhere. The money is as a result of your negotiation with the party. But the other things that make the contract what it is, the warranties and the indemnities. You are indemnifying whoever you enter the contract with that whatever you've provided him is original and from you. There's no claim by any other person for copyright infringement. Meanwhile, there's a present dispute between somebody over the use of a beat. You have sinned against the warranty you've agreed and signed to. So those things are things that you have to take notice of and know before you sign anything. Know your obligations under. Some people think it's just producing the beat or just producing the song, but maybe there are other obligations. You've given them a license to use your name, your likeness, your trademark in promoting the music. So one day when you see it somewhere, don't say I didn't authorize it. It's in the contract that you signed. So you have to know all of these things before you go and sign that dotted line and you receive that advance. And one of your advance, instead of giving it to the producer to actually play the music, you need to buy a car. Read all of those before you decide to make those decisions.
Guys, so if you are watching me right now, your kind of cry is a lot for me. So all I can tell is lawyer up before you sign any contract. If you're a music producer, a musician, anybody at all, just lawyer up before you sign any contract. Just lawyer up. So, another question for the lawyer. To the music producers looking or watching us right now, what clauses would you tell them to look out for when signing a contract with record labels or artists?
With record labels,
like I want just three.
Look at the ownership. Look at the tenure. Look at termination and dispute resolution. You said Tiba, I'll give you 4. Termination and dispute resolution. Look out for those ones. Because those are the ones that will literally tie you into the contract. It's not about... I'm not saying don't be concerned about your royalties. Please do. When you feel you're getting a raw deal, speak up and negotiate better and get more royalties, a greater percentage. But look at those things especially. And there's this thing that most artists don't know or don't take cognizance of. When you leave a label, you don't leave with your music. Especially if the terms of your agreements were that the label owns the songs. You don't leave with your music. You have performance rights to perform it. It comes with you. Everybody knows that this is your song, but you don't own it. And so even the rights owner can restrict you from performing the song. So when you are terminating and you're leaving, please have a termination agreement, because you are still entitled as performer to some royalties from the songs. So let me know which percentage you are taking even after leaving the label. If there's the option to buy your masters, what is the price? Is it after a commercial valuation, or is it at the discretion of the label, or whatever? Just get to know those things before you leave. You don't just jump ship and then when it dries up, you're up in arms. There's a process to it, to everything. Is he even granting you permission to perform those songs? Because I think we all know where I'm going to, where people have left labels and they can't perform those songs anymore. And it's not like they forgot the lyrics to the songs, but the rights owners are not allowing them to perform those songs anymore.
Wow.
So get to know all of those things. You don't have to know the technicalities of it, but just have the general overview of how these things work.
Okay. Spiky, have you ever signed a contract that you later regretted, or signed a contract that was so bad that you had to go back and renegotiate?
You know, that was one I said I almost signed, but then I let my lawyer friend look through it, and then we changed certain things. And you know, when counsel was talking,
or you're dangerous. I feel like lawyers not a year contract. Lawyers to be free.
Oh yeah, I mean that's why every business, every well-meaning or every business that's in it to survive always has a legal department. Because there are always loopholes. In every other corner, they have a loophole that they can drag you through. So I learned early to treat whatever I'm doing as business. And it's not just play. So I don't mind if we're friends or whatever, but business is business. Unless you now like, I just want, take something dash you. But it doesn't matter. And I think that's one of the things that our fellow musicians and producers do. It's the passion overlooks the bread that they're supposed to make. Do you get it? They treat it as fun. They treat it as something we're passionate about, something we're doing because we love, and forgetting that it is their bread and butter. This is what you live for. If you stop making music today, it should be able to take care of you and your generations after, right? And if the sooner you realize this, the more you attach a certain level of seriousness to these things, and you ask questions, you probe, you do your due diligence, and then you, like you said, lawyer up. Most of the time, I realize, or I see that most of my, they just do it. No Nikes. But Charlie, go and sit down, ask questions, be bold. Don't see, sometimes people are afraid that maybe if I go and do FIFA too much, the people will not do the deal again. No, they came to you because they need you. They came to you because they need your product. right? And so you have to believe in your product and take what's yours. Ask the right questions, probe. I'm not talking to you if I'm not having my lawyer here. Sometimes they'll try and corner you somewhere and have these conversations with you so that you know, and then make the deal look juicy. And then right then, you'll sign the thing because, Charlie, you know what? Yeah, we're giving you a deal of a lifetime, $100,000. Just sign. Signing a deal with the devil. You know, when you should consult your gods, whichever one that you pray to, which is your lawyer in this case, and say, you know what? Very attractive deal. Give me Charlie. And they'll always have that one guy who's whispering to you, bro, this thing, don't even let this thing leave your sight. Charlie, you the slack, they go go give this guy, maybe they go give. I need to know what I'm getting myself into, you know. Call your lawyer, Charlie. The people bring some contract I foresee you before I go sign. And you take it, let him see it, let him go through it. If you can't reach your lawyer, like you said, talk to anybody who's well-versed in this industry. You have the Beatmanis, 7 Xavier, like so many people there that can give you the insights. See, these 2 people I've mentioned, they've saved me a lot of times. Yeah. Like countless times I've called them before I've done something and they advise me. Or they'll reference me to something that has happened and I'll be like, hey, Charlie, be true. Like if I slack, you know? And so the most important thing is for every musician to know that it's business. I mean, it says what? 90% business, 10% show. That's a show business. So if you are treating it 90% show and 10% business, a competitor brutal.
So big ups to Beatmanis wherever you are. Big up to Beatmanis. Charlie, you really spoiled it. So with the contract you almost signed, what did you learn from it?
Oh, I was going to give them rights to use my music in perpetuity. And any other version of it that I made.
Like before we even continue, maybe someone is watching us, they have no idea what perpetuity means. Can you explain it to them?
Forever and ever.
Forever and ever. Amen.
Yes, you have to add amen. Like you can't back out of it. You can't. What are you going to do? You can't. You signed.
Yeah,
the signature is there. So they were going to use it whenever, forever. Mind you, a few years after that beat was about 10 years old. COVID hit in 2020. Another company hit me up and said they wanted to use that beat to do a documentary, like an educational video about washing hands and everything. And I was like, wow. So like, these people would have been owning this thing and I'll be here.
You go to them. I mean, so you have to go to them.
Yeah, so they have to go to them and then they will take the money.
Yeah, and then they'll give you something like a mean.
So you see, yeah, I almost.
Kobna. So talking about intellectual properties, how can producers protect their intellectual property?
I would like to say that by registration. We have a Copyright Act which even mandates, I may not get the section right, but I believe it's either section 11 or 12 of the Copyright Act, which even mandates them that whenever they produce a audio recording, there are certain things they should add, which includes their name or signature tone or into the matrix. So that's why you see producers always have a tagline, so you just know it's them. It's not for nothing that you're putting it in there, but you're actually legally mandated to put those things in the data, the year the song was made, the producer, the artist. So then every song's data should carry all of these things, so that whenever I pick a song, I know who produced it, I know who made it, I know which year it was made, I know who the producer is, because I can identify his name or his tagline in the production. And this is even in our Copyright Act, which is, the Copyright Act now is 2005, so it's almost 19 years old. And this is even before the digital age. So even that protection has been given to producers since. And then you can also license your work. There's a copyright office here. You produce samples of the work with your name, you pay a small fee, and then it's registered, so that you have that protection. But copyright is such a nice right. I like to call it a nice right, because you're even protected even if you do not have registration. The non-registration does not affect your protection. Once it can be attested to with public notoriety that this is your original work and everybody can attest to it. I won't, well, attest is a bit technical, but everybody can vouch for the fact that it is yours, the court will uphold that right. So you don't necessarily need to always register it. That's what makes it such a nice right. And it's enforceable wherever. Once you can prove that it is your original work that has been taken, you'll be afforded that protection.
Okay. Spiky, when it comes to collaboration here, how do you ensure your work is protected when it comes to collaborating with other artists?
So when I was talking, you mentioned the split sheets a couple of times. So even when using my distribution platform, there's a section where you can actually do your splits on there. And so I make it a ritual to always hit whoever I'm doing work with that I need your details to fill that space with. And then also I have a very basic contract for basic deals, and then a very in-depth one.
Now, when you say basic, how many sheets?
It's just like one sheet.
Just one?
Yeah, depending on what kind of contribution it is. So maybe if I get like an instrumentalist to play on, I would ask them in what capacity do they want to perform for me? Are you doing this in this capacity? How long can I? So basically my lawyer did some a small contract for you to know that we have an agreement. If I'm paying you in advance, are you giving me rights to use it forever for whichever purpose? Because I may be able to sample it again later on. And I don't want you to say that you agreed to do it on this song. I'm going to use it on 10 other songs, so you're coming to sue me. I mean, I'm suing people. I'm sure right now I'm also in somebody's crosshair, so I have to have my back. I have to watch my back, So yeah, we do also. As much as possible, I avoid circumstances or situations that can put me in a very dicey situation. So if I know that I can't control whatever decision that person is going to take, I don't even go that far. But then there's a basic contract say, hey, you're doing this for me, I'm paying you this amount, and I can use it for this. If I can't use it for that, you also let me know, so that I don't use it for anything other than that. Then I know that, okay, I can't use it for another beat, or I can't use it for something commercial. Or if I use it for something commercial, if I commercialize it, you have a share. That's when we then move to the split sheets from there. So yeah.
So in this game is either you finesse or be finessed. Because looking at how things are going, that's how it looks like. Finesse or be finessed.
Yep.
Wow. Come now.
Yes, please talk to me.
So when it comes to royalties, how should these people go about it, and how should they, how do they know how to get compensated rightly for it?
So when it comes to royalties, normally royalties are paid to you by your distributor. So everybody should have a distributor. Your distributor will, with your permission, go out and collect royalties on the various DSPs that use your songs. So that's where the streaming numbers come into play. And then each DSP has a rate for calculating each stream.
Sorry for continuing. Is it really worth it? Because I've seen people receive 300 CDs as royalties before.
Is it from a DSP
or from
Gamro? Or from who?
So to clarify.
Where do you think the 300 CDs will come from?
So
I just want you to tell me.
I know it's coming from Gamro. I'm sure it's coming from Gamro.
Oh, but some distributors, if you are not getting a lot of streams,
yes,
yeah, you get 50% yourself.
I think it was from a popular artist.
So for Gamro is a collecting agency. And so Gamro is supposed to be voluntary. You have to join Gamro to be able to benefit from whatever collections they're doing. And we also have to appreciate the difficulties Gamro also faces. I think these are difficulties they've channeled multiple times about even having some of the equipment to do this monitoring and collecting properly. So with Gamro, it will take time. There are established distributors who have been doing this for years. They have the right equipment that traverses various territories. So they are monitoring I once saw somebody's revenue sheet, and then they were playing there were streams from Malaysia. I'm like, how do you even know somebody's listening to this song in Malaysia? But yeah, that's his job. He's going around making sure that every time that artist's song is played, he's picked the data, he's multiplied it by his rate, and he can ascribe monetary figure to it. So your distributor will go around doing the collection. Of course, you have to pay your distributor for doing that work. So then there's a fee you would pay your distributor. It depends on the distributor. Some are doing 70-30, 85-15, 80-20. It's depending on the distributor and then the reach the person has. Then there's the tax part. Of course, you have to pay tax. It's an economic activity. So as a deduction of the tax part, then you get your net royalty. And so that's what you are paid from, the net royalty from the streams. So you had, let's say, 1 million streams on Spotify, 5 million on Apple Music, 3 million on Audio Mac. What are the other ones?
By Deezer,
what was the other one?
Music, Pandora,
Boom Play.
Yeah,
you have so many streams from all of those ones, and then your distributor will collate all of them. Each one has a rate. Multiply the rate by the number of streams and tell you at the end of the month you made this much. Tax took this much. I'm taking this much. So this is your share of your mechanical royalty. So it either goes to the label or it goes to the artist himself, and then the label and the artist have a way of sharing that one too. That's a separate agreement between the label and the artist. It's a separate agreement between the label and the distributor. When it comes to publishing, your publisher will do the same thing. Every time that song is played, he'll go around collecting your publishing royalties from you, from the various DSPs and all, and also come and tell you that this is what I'm taking, this is what you pay for tax, this is what you're getting based on your percentage of the song. Because publishing royalties, unless the person is the songwriter, is the producer, is the artist, or all in one, there will always be divisions. So you can have the songwriter owning 25%, then the composer or the producer will own 50%, then the artist himself will own the remaining 25%. And so it's dependent on how much went into the song for each party when it comes to publishing rights. And when it comes to mechanical rights, it's the streaming itself and then the owner of the masters who gets it after the various deductions. So that's how you go into your royalty discussion.
I think I need to start writing songs. So, Kwabna, 2 legal advice you give to aspiring producers. 2.
Always have a lawyer. First one. And after getting your lawyer, pay your lawyer.
Hey. After getting your lawyer, pay your lawyer. Spiky.
Wait. You pay the lawyer as and when or retainer?
It depends on what you're doing. If it's always good to have a lawyer on retainer. That's a day or come, hail, high water, tide, rain, sunshine, the lawyer is there. But if you feel that you cannot afford it, have it for the as and whens.
Okay. So in conclusion, pay your lawyer.
Pay your lawyer.
Spiky.
Yep.
One important advice you give to an upcoming producer. One important.
Learn. Like, knowledge is endless. So you really have to make sure that if this is a space you're going into, you know a lot and enough, and keep learning, keep updated, because it helps when you have knowledge, so before you even get, like Kojo said, bamboozled or finessed, you've already finessed the person in your head. You've anticipated the finessing that's coming. You just really need to know. You need to learn. You need to stay updated. And like I said, you asked for one. Yep. It's business. You love it. You're doing it for fun. You're passionate about it, but it can pay your bills. Matter of fact, it can make you retire early. So take it serious. Make it a business. Get a lawyer. Pay the lawyer. I mean, you see, if you make it a business, then you get the money to pay the lawyer. If you don't make it a business, and then you collect 500 Ghana cedis from this.
Charlie, 500 Ghana cedis again. 500 Ghana cedis again. So guys, I wanted you guys to give your last remark, but it looks like you guys have said everything. Or do you want to say anything? Something brief?
I think more of these conversations should happen. And it's not like we're at some pinnacle where we are so hard to reach. We're your everyday person. We're on Twitter with you. Oh yeah, we see your tweets, we see your snippets when you release songs, and then we're also there when you start insulting your former label and tagging them and saying they owe you so much. So we are your friendly neighborhood everyday person. Just ask and you'll find us.
Okay.
And there's never a thing like this question is too small for you. It could be the turning point in where your career is going. So ask that question. If you feel you're not getting a good deal, press for more. If you feel you've been hard done and you want to seek redress, please do this. There's nothing like, oh, the courts will take so much time, so let's go. I think there was a Play It Right program here at Jumbo, and Rexomar detailed how it took him 5 years to get, is it Malcolm? Or yeah, it was Malcolm, right? Malcolm to pay him for using his Joy Daddy.
No, Joy Daddy.
Malcolm was TikTok.
Malcolm was TikTok.
Yeah.
He detailed.
I was the MC. I MC'd with Miss Akbai. Yeah.
Yeah, so it took him 5 years, including going to court in Koforidua from Accra to get Joy Daddy to pay him for using just D. So it's an inconsequential part of the song.
Okay.
But yeah, that's how important it is in the greater scheme of things when it comes to intellectual property rights. So yeah.
Okay. Spiky.
You know, I'm a techie, and I think that as part of what I do, I play with tech a lot, and I learn a lot of things about tech. We've probably heard about how AI is disrupting everything we're doing, and now people are duplicating or replicating other people's voices, other people's styles. If you're not, like I said, you have to learn, you have to be updated. If you're not anticipating that evolution, you could be there thinking you're doing things traditionally, and then one day you wake up and you are not needed. Imagine if AI starts producing music in the style of, now we have it doing art. So if somebody creates, AI tools exist that can make beats now, but they're only going to get better. And I'm not saying it's going to replace you, but the one who uses it best is going to replace you, because they're going to be more efficient, faster, and more productive. And people would rather go to the guy who gets the beats done in 30 minutes and it sounds dope than come and sit in the studio with you for 5 hours and not even gets the thing done, because time is money. So learn and diversify. Don't just limit yourself to just one thing you're doing. If you're doing music, explore other areas. You can make money from a lot of places, a lot of things. Just open your mind and explore and learn.
Okay, guys, we've come to the end of another episode. The name is Kojo Jr. and I am here with Kwabna and Spiky. I still want him to give me some of the CAF money, and right now I have a lawyer, I have a counsel, so I'll be misbehaving small once he got me. So thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate this. This has been very, very educative, and this is the end of the episode. Thank you guys.
Thank you for having us.